Good evening, assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the 2024 election show. We're coming to you every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And of course, we're bringing you a profile of political parties, civil societies, and other stakeholders that are looking ahead to this year's election. Of course, we're just under 3 weeks away before we go ahead and cast our ballots. And of course, it's going to be a hotly contested election with various smaller parties entering into the frame, but these parties could have such a huge influence with regards to the provincial and, dare I say, even national. Today we are talking to the Sizwe Ummah Nation, and of course it was founded on the aims of promoting and propagating the ideals of Islam. Furthermore, the Sun Party aims to empower citizens by encouraging self-sustainability. Now, the Sun Party is among three of the Muslim parties that are in South Africa, the other two being Al-Jama and, of course, the Allied Movement for Change. Joining us in studio, I'd like to welcome Rasheed Gutta, who is the national candidate for parliament for the Sun Party. Mr. Gutta, assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah so much for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam. Greetings to you, Faraz, and greetings to the viewers. Thanks for having me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Mr. Gutta, three different parties that are aligned with the values of Islam. What makes Sun Party different to the other two? Or the similarities? I mean, maybe you could give it.
The Sun Party is, the motto is leaders you can trust to be honest and just. It's not an Islamic party, but it is based on ethos of returning to God consciousness, where the people who founded this party wanted the ethos of transforming the marginalized people in society and transform it into a more socially just and equitable society. So that was the main premise of the party.
Yeah, carry on, please.
Now, in terms of, there is a difference between the three different parties. The main priority of our party is how do we establish this? So we believe that through a priority is to have an economic recovery plan, which is a guaranteed, tried and tested model that we want to implement so we can achieve this. You know, many people in their manifestos, they make promises that are unfulfilled. We are making a promise, a guarantee of a tried and tested plan.
But in order for you to get that guarantee, Mr. Gutta, you would need to have seats within the provincial legislature and, of course, the National Assembly. How do you guarantee the people, but without maybe getting a seat? So how do you intend on getting that seat in the National Assembly? Of course, you are running to be the national candidate for parliament. So, of course, are you confident that the Sun Party will have one seat within the National Assembly?
Yeah, just to clarify, the Sun Party has qualified for the national ballot.
Yes, no, I do know that, yes, yeah.
And then on the provincial, we've got the Northwest Province, we've got the Gauteng, the KZN, and the Western Cape. So we're aiming and campaigning at all levels, but we're focusing on the masses of the country because that's who we want to impact upon. So with our proposal that we're giving to people, they are mainly unemployed people. So we're giving a restored hope to these people. You know, if you look at the 2019 and 2021 election, most people decided to stay at home and not vote. So this time around, with many parties coming and with our emphasis on these kind of things to alleviate their plight, we're finding that there's a lot of resonance from the people. The people want to see change. I mean, we're waking up in 30 years here to a dream deferred. And we're waking up to this nightmare. So we've got to stand up now and make the change.
Mr. Gutta, you spoke about, obviously, leadership being one of your main mottos, and of course, that slogan. The last 30 years, of course, we started in '94, the euphoria of the Madiba magic. We've now, of course, come here where there's a lack of trust within the leaders of our society. How does leadership get then regained within the communities? Because that's where it is. It's the citizens of the country that are ultimately deciding the fate of where the leaders need to be.
Yes, you see, the first 15 years of our democracy was very positive. There was great euphoria that, you know, things were going to get better. But the last 15 years have been a very big setback in terms of the way the country has been run and mismanaged. at the moment, even when you go to events, when they talking about, political analysts are talking about who to vote for, people still seem to be confused. And the reason is because there isn't credible leadership. Even if you take the ruling party at the moment, even on their candidate lists, it's all the same people that have been in power for so long. So I think that society needs to be given an opportunity to see some new inspirational leadership. And it is coming through this current 52 parties and 11 independent candidates that are there. So it's restoring some kind of hope. But this country is a very rich country for us. I mean, the mineral wealth we are endowed with, but it is only being, only a narrow band of politically connected individuals and big business are benefiting at the expense of the masses. I've been out on the campaign trail and I've been looking at the way, in the village and marginalized areas, I mean, they don't even have water and basic services. So we can't accept this type of excuses after 30 years. I mean, it's not acceptable. We have to stand up and the citizens of this country need to act. So one way to do it is to go to the poll, to go and vote on May the 29th, to make the change, because otherwise it's not going to happen.
Mr. Gutta, you talk about obviously you being on the campaign trail. You, of course, originally from the Northwest Province. And I want to go to Marikana. And we all know what happened on that tragic day in August of 2012. Till today, that community of Marikana still seems to be going backwards, not forwards. Obviously now Sibanye Stillwater CEO Neil Froneman continues to say that there's improvements that are happening with regards to being with the communities. But it's big business that are not connecting well with the communities, and that's down to maybe national government on making that effort. You've been on the campaign trail. Is that a sense of what you see, the fact that there seems to be a betrayal, and I use the word betrayal because that's what the word is on the street, a betrayal of their not having national government's trust in giving them the basic necessities as enshrined in our constitution?
Yeah, you see, the biggest problem is economic power is controlled by few people. And we're exporting all these raw materials, the minerals. If you take platinum, iron ore. I mean, in the Northwest Province, if I'm not mistaken, there's about 23 of the 25 minerals that you can get in the whole of Africa is there. It's a wealthy province. But we're exporting all this raw material where we should be beneficiating them. So one of our policies in coming into office in the first 100 days is a structural reform. We need to create the engine for growth. The only way that a country can come right is through economic growth, not through promises. So in our plan that I say is a tried and tested plan, we just simply advocating something that has already worked. And we need to produce the finished product and export it. And then we'll get the wealth. So I think through that and through another process of employee equity, where we start remunerating workers for their productivity and their performance, and they become, stakeholders in the economic pie, then you're going to get a more balanced society. We have the most unequal society in the world, and it's getting exacerbated. In fact, after apartheid is when it got even worse. So there can't be a reason for this.
32.1%, Mr. Gutta. That's the unemployment rate. That's South Africa's numbers, but we don't know how high it could be. One would like to assume it could be even higher when you go to the labor departments of various towns. How does the Sun Party, try and assist in making sure the unemployment rate goes down? Because 32.1%, and within that 32.1% is a larger chunk of the youth unemployment.
Yes. I'm glad you mentioned youth, because youth is 50% of the eligible voter base. If all the youth stood together in one, and they could actually lead this country, they are having the highest unemployment rate. So through our process of, we're going to reduce unemployment because we got this economic recovery of beneficiating the raw materials. We must create a disincentive to export the raw and incentivize the finished product to be exported. They will create the jobs. And the youth need to learn how the industry has collapsed, but there is still skilled workers in this country, but they are 60 years and 70 years old. So through on-the-job training, we need to transfer the skills to the youth. I'm saying that we must even look at a policy of making sure that youth are 50% of the employment in a company. We must make that a policy so that we can eradicate that problem.
After the break, I continue my conversation with Rasheed Gutta from the Sizwe Ummah Nation. We're going to be talking about their aims and ambitions ahead of the polls and where they would like to position themselves provincially, regionally, and of course, nationally. Do stay tuned. Welcome back to 2024 elections. I'm in conversation with Rasheed Gutta from the Sizwe Ummah Nation. Now, of course, Rasheed Gutta is looking to get a seat within the National Assembly. And of course, that requires a large chunk of votes. Mr. Gutta, are you confident that you'll be able to get those votes to put you in the National Assembly, just to get even the one seat for the Sun Party?
I think I'm feeling pretty confident at the moment. It's been the last 3-4 months has been quite hectic trying to get the voters interested in a small party like ourselves. But we found alliances. We have one now with the Shembe people, with the Church of Nazareth, and under their leadership of Lizwe Nkwani, they are promoting our party. They've decided to align with us because they align with our value system, of return to God consciousness. And through that way, it's all about the numbers. So we've been able to have some synergies with various groups that can enable us to get there. And so I'm feeling good at the moment.
Of course, you deep within the constituency. So how have you been able to convince, these communities, especially in the Northwest, where I know you've done a lot of campaigning there, that there's an alternative to the traditional ANC or maybe even the EFF, because those are the two parties that are quite influential within the Northwest Province. So how have you managed to convince the residents of the Northwest Province that, look, there's a third option, and that option is the Sun Party?
I think the country is yearning for change. They want to look at some leadership that's going to take us through. And when I was on the campaign trail, it's not just about campaigning. We're trying to have a campaign with a purpose. So there was a protest in Mafeking, coincidentally, where they were protesting about water. They don't have water. So our party decided to alleviate that plight by providing a borehole to this village that's just on the doorstep of town. So that was very much appreciated. So wherever we go, the people are asking for boreholes. I mean, it sounds crazy, but these are basic services. The roads have collapsed, and we know what the load shedding is like. But the bottom line is that we need to make change, and it doesn't mean the small party can't do it. A small party like ourselves, we have a big vision. We want to transform society. The smallness is because of the resources are limited. But if you have big parties that have been given 30 years to govern, and they can create this kind of inequality and declining economy, there's nothing, you can't give an excuse to this.
Sure.
It's not acceptable, it's not sustainable, and it brings indignity to the people. So I think the small parties should be given a much more opportunity and a chance to prove themselves. We've given 30 years to the ruling party. Why not give 5 years to the small guys?
Mr. Gutta, on another show I do called Talking Point Show on Hilaal TV, I spoke about the importance of the Muslim vote, and one of my guests, Dr. Faisal Suleiman from Samnet, said that there is, a rise of Muslim leaders, of course, like yourself within the Sun Party. Al-Jamaa has leadership there through Khanif Hendricks. You've got, obviously, the Allied Movement for Change, Sheikh Imam Mansour. And then you look at our NGOs, the likes of Dr. Imtiaz Suleiman, that shows that there is a leadership factor within South Africa, and that Muslims have quite a voice. Even if we are a minority, there's quite a huge voice that we can have. Only in South Africa can it be achieved. How much should we as Muslims really value the democracy that we have and the privileges we have in this country?
We have to, at this point in time, defend this democracy. It's been a hard-fought battle, 300 years of oppression. And myself, classified as an Indian in a minority group, I don't feel like I'm excluded from the democracy. I feel like I can take part and be part of the change. So I think it's important that we raise our hands like we're doing now and contribute to positive change in this country. It's an imperative. There's a slogan now that we're saying, we've come to the conclusion that politics is too serious a matter to leave to the politicians.
How much does society and community play a role in this? Because we always talk about the citizen vote. We always talk about the importance of their vote. So how important are citizens going to be in the future of politics within this country? Because like you've mentioned, we've left too much to the politicians. So the role of the citizen, what factor do they play in this?
The citizen is the most vital person because it's the one man, one vote. If you take 2019 and 2021, more people stayed at home and didn't choose to vote. So then you won't have a democracy, you will get an autocracy. So citizens need to, if they can't be active in protesting against basic services that are not delivered, you've got to hold the government accountable. If we go there as in the 400 seats in the National Assembly, then our duty is not to the party, it's duty to the country. And that's the problem in South Africa, it's party politics. The party is bigger than the country. That's why we find ourselves in this position. So with 400 seats available and so many parties contesting, I think this is a unique opportunity this time around, where there are so many diverse leaders around that can contribute with their different ideas and expertise in different fields. We don't feel like we have to just vote for one party.
Mr. Gutta, if I were to ask you realistically, where do you see the Sun Party in 5 years, provincially and nationally? Where would you like to see it?
We in for this 5-year term. We're saying that we have a fantastic economic recovery plan that's tried and tested. We're not reinventing the wheel. We just want to make sure that it gets implemented, because with that economic growth, we can then afford to have social reforms like free education and healthcare, which we say we can't afford at the moment. So if we are given an opportunity, I'm sure that we're going to be able to give South Africans a better life than what they find themselves currently, because we have that commitment, we have the political will to do this. And I'm saying it personally that if I can't achieve that in the next 5 years, I'm prepared to step aside and allow someone else to come in. Because you can't continue to be in power and not deliver results and provide excuses like is currently being done. Then you lead to this whole collapse of society.
Mr. Gutta, Jazakallah so much for joining us here on 2024 elections here on Hilaal TV. And we wish you all the best ahead of the polls on May the 29th.
Thank you very much. And both viewers, please go in and cast your vote because that's what's going to make the difference.
I couldn't agree more with you there. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
That's Rasheed Gutta. He's from the Sizwe Ummah Nation and he is the national candidate for a parliament. That's all we have for you here. To join me again tomorrow, same time, same place. From myself, for Hospital, and the rest of the team in Johannesburg. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.